Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp as we once again have a look at some of the games coming out for the Switch in this upcoming week. In terms of dates, we'll be going from the 18th of March up until the 24th to see if there's anything worth your time, and we've also got a look at some upcoming games with no release date yet from a trip we took to Daedalic Entertainment's offices in Germany, and that will be found towards the end of the video. So which games are coming out for the Switch this week? Well, let's find out.
A thanks to Bedtime Digital Games for sponsoring this episode with their new release Figment 2. Now if you ever played the first one, the sequel continues along that Alice in Wonderland style adventure where you're journeying through the mind and its different emotions. It has a beautiful art style with musical based showdowns against its inhabitants.
This time round, nightmares are spreading chaos and enemies have overrun the once peaceful lands. You join Dusty, the mind's courage, as you make your way through puzzles, musical boss fights as Mark just said, and unique environments, facing your fears head on. Now I reviewed the first of these games and I really enjoyed it. This time round there is a co-op mode or companion mode as it's called. As the blurb mentions, you should never have to face your fears alone. You'll explore the mind's two fundamental states, open-minded and closed-minded, and you'll switch between these states and adapt to the shifting environment to be able to move forward through the game. This is out now on the Switch and regional prices are on your screen as we speak, and there'll be links in the description if you are interested in picking this one up. Once again, a thank you to Bedtime Digital for sponsoring this episode. Let's move on to the games coming out this week then, and the first is Furry Fury. This describes itself as a game of pool but with little beasts instead of balls and deadly arenas instead of tables. You can play 1v1 duels or 2v2 multiplayer matches in turn-based physics encounters, and victory will see you climb the leaderboards. It's available to play both locally or online, and it will release on the 20th and cost £8.99. Then we have Remnant from the Ashes. This is a third-person survival action shooter set in a post-apocalyptic world overrun by monstrous creatures. As one of the last remnants of humanity, you'll set out alone or alongside up to 2 other players to face down deadly enemies and take back what has been lost. There are over 100 varieties of enemies and 20 bosses as you scavenge resources to stay alive and find loot to build powerful weapons and armour. This first released back in 2019 and includes both online and local wireless play, and will sell for £34.99 or your regional equivalent when it releases on the 21st.
Prepare to fight the root of all evil.
Also this week we have a Nice Death, a 2D action roguelike where you play as an overworked death whose employees have run rampant. In order to restore order, you'll need to grab your trusty scythe and show your employees who's boss. The combat is fast-paced hack and slash, utilising over 30 unique weapons and spells that you can find and upgrade. A performance review after each run will see you unlock items and upgrades to help you on your journey, and it has a very interesting art style, and provided it gets that classic roguelike addictive loop right, it could be a lot of fun. It's out on the 22nd and it will cost £21.99 or your regional equivalent, but it has 20% off of this price up until just before launch. Then we have Omen of Sorrow, which brings monsters of horror, literature and mythology together for a fighting game in a clash to take back the night. The blurb says that the roster includes characters such as Frankenstein's monster and Egyptian high priest Imhotep in a 2.5D 4-button fighting game. This version of the game includes the full roster of characters, an enhanced story mode and cross-platform online play. Now I do love this idea and always have wanted a proper fighting game that includes all of the classic horror icons, and whilst I fear that licensing issues will prevent that from ever happening, I am intrigued to see what the roster looks like here. It will cost £17.99 and it's out on the 23rd. Next is Rakuen Deluxe Edition. This tells the story of a hospitalised boy who travels to the fantasy world of his favourite storybook to ask the Guardian of the Forest for one wish. In order to receive this wish, he must undertake a number of challenges based around helping the alter egos from people he knows in the hospital in this new fantasy world. This deluxe edition actually includes a second game according to the blurb, the newest game in the Rakuen universe, and an animated film collection called Farmer in the Sky. I read that this game was originally built using the RPG Maker XP engine for its release back in 2017, and this Switch release will cost £22. The next release is Sushi Bar Express, a time management cooking game. You'll start a career as a sushi chef looking to feed the hungry masses and collect their cash. You can then use this money to upgrade your equipment and purchase more recipes. It promises fast-paced but accessible gameplay and a comical cast of characters as you attempt to post your best scores to the online leaderboards. This one is out on the 23rd and it will cost £24.99. Following on from that is Nefasto's Misadventure meeting Neuros, which is a point-and-click adventure game. You play as Nefasto, a corrupted piece of game data locked in a buggy console. The system is about to crash and you need to find a way out before you are permanently deleted. You'll be solving challenging puzzles, talking to NPCs and taking on bosses, and there are multiple endings to unlock, and the blurb says events where the gameplay changes according to the whims of the Nefasto code, which is quite interesting. I'm not quite sure what that means. This will cost £17.89, but you can get 25% off of this price up until the 23rd of March. The penultimate game for the week is Atelier Ryza 3, Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key. The blurb describes this as Ryza's final adventure as she sets out to defend her homeland from a mysterious set of islands that have appeared, and ultimately the adventure revolves around a key and the routes to alchemy. You'll be reuniting with characters from previous games, and there are 11 playable characters in total, and the new key system is introduced, with each key having various types and effects that can be used in exploration, synthesis and combat. There are a number of bundles available on the eShop for this game, but the standard edition will cost you £49.99 or your regional equivalent, and it releases on the 24th. And finally for the week we have FLASHOUT 3, a high-speed racer that offers loops, jumps and razor-sharp turns around sci-fi tracks. You can unleash the power of rockets, guns, bombs and mines to help you take down your competition, and there is a split-screen mode as well as a campaign mode consisting of 10 tournaments. There are 8 ships to choose from, and standard and reverse tracks are also included, and it's another game out on the 24th and it will cost £24.99 or your regional equivalent. As part of this upcoming games episode, we're just going to add an extra little segment in here to recount an experience we had recently where we were invited by Daedalic Entertainment to go across to their offices in Germany and have a look at some of the games they've got coming out for the Switch. No real time frame for these yet, but we'll put them in this episode and obviously we'll cover them in more detail as and when the time comes.
First up then, we've got a game called Capes. Now this looks very interesting. It's very much an XCOM style tactical turn-based, squad-based strategy game whereby you have a series of heroes trying to overthrow the villains that now run this city. It looks to have a few interesting mechanics, like being able to do different team-up moves between your heroes and use environmental features to your advantage. Yeah, it looks really nice, this one. I must say I do love these styles of games, so it's one to keep your eye out for.
Lovely, yeah, that one was from Spitfire Interactive. The next one was called Wonderful, and this was from Tiny Raw, and this was a cozy game, I guess, is the new term that exists these days, isn't it? Where you'll be building on a piece of land on an isometric viewpoint, and the point here is that you need to try to get to each node and try to build each building before you run out of turns or cards as they are, and obviously each time you'll try again and try to perfect your run and get more of the town or more of the landscape built.
Then we were shown Potion Tycoon from Snowbound Games. Now this is almost a sim game whereby you run your own little potion shop. You can place the rooms, drag them out to the size that you want, put in different features, cauldrons, anything you might need to improve your overall aesthetic of the shop, as well as the functional items to brew those said potions. I was able to play a reasonably early build of this one, but you can certainly see the concept. It gets quite compelling trying to customize all the different rooms in your shop, and then it has that Moonlighter type predictive element where you're trying to figure out exactly what people are going to want when they come in.
Next we were shown Revile, which comes from Pixel Split Games, and this is a horror-based walking simulator, I guess, quite popular within horror games these days, first person of course. And this one was based around the idea of you having worked in the past for a fun fair and having to return to that scene due to events in your life transpiring. I played about half an hour's worth of this one, and I did enjoy it. I do like my horror games. There was a lot of puzzle solving to be had. You walk around as you get to the carnival, you're kind of walking around the rides, and it has that quite macabre feel to it of an empty fun fair. And I could see that this one, with a bit of polish, could be one that I enjoy a lot more when it releases.
And one that I will never play because I don't like horror games. But it does look good for those that do. Alright, that takes us on to Wild Woods, which was a 4-player cooperative multiplayer game where you have a horse and cart moving through the middle of the screen, and the 4 of you have essentially got to keep it going. You have to provide wood fuel essentially to keep the torch going during the nights when the camera kind of closes into a smaller view and there are enemies attacking from the darkness, and you make your way through. There are different pickups you can get. You're actually playing as cats, I believe, isn't that right?
Yeah, it had a heavy Overcooked feel to it in terms of you really have to work together. You can throw each other the items, the resources you need, wood, as Mark said, to keep the fire going, because when nighttime comes, the enemies get stronger, and obviously the screen will go black as well if you run out of wood, so you need to make sure you're nice and stocked up. And there are also towns that you'll visit, or shops rather, as you go along on your route, and you can upgrade both yourselves and the cart, and then obviously there's a boss at the end of each level. Quite a fun one this. We played 4-player, the full complement, and it was enjoyable actually. I quite enjoyed this one. And the last one we're going to talk about today for the games we were shown whilst there was Magin. Now this is a story-driven game with card-based combat where your decisions will affect the narrative as you move on. Now you have almost like a dark and a light magic-based system. It's set in a world where magic is now outlawed, and you have to keep the fact that you can control magic secret to kind of get by on everyday life. But the light and the dark-based magic system, you'll get points for each depending on the choices you make, and obviously that will then affect the types of magic you can perform. But what was quite interesting was that if you're in a battle, say for example, you could end it with a magic spell, end it earlier than otherwise possible, but then you may well reveal to people that you can do magic, and that might affect the rest of the story. So again, we only saw a little bit of this one, but I did like that idea.
Yeah, it had a few famous voices in there. I don't want to spoil that in case it's a secret, but there was also a very I like these little quirky mechanics whereby before you left the house you had to choose what you were going to eat and put together a recipe, and then that would affect your statistics and other elements of the game.
Absolutely. Just another huge thank you to Daedalic for inviting us over. It was quite an honour really. It's the first time anything like that's happened to the channel, and as we said, no firm dates for these games yet, but they will be out on the Switch in the future. So there you have it, another week of Nintendo Switch releases, as well as a look at some games that will be coming out for the Switch at some point in the future. Please do let us know if you are picking any of these up. Did any of them interest you at all? Put it all in the comments section. Another big thank you to Bedtime Digital for sponsoring this episode. Don't forget you can check out their game Figment 2 in the links below. And if you are looking for any eShop credit to pick up that game or anything else for that matter, you can get your eShop cards via our website switchup.gg, and for a limited time there is 5% discount available there if you use the code SwitchUp. Doing so does really help the channel out, by the way. It's massively appreciated to anyone who uses that method. There's also a link down there to Play Asia if you want to import any games. I've imported a few myself recently. I'm just waiting for my order to arrive. I've got the new Fatal Frame or Project Zero on the way, as well as Ib, a really interesting looking game that I covered a couple of weeks back. If you do want to do so, then use the link down below, use the code stated, and you can get yourself 5% off of an order from there too. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members, of course, for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.